So I began first with an acupuncturist and a Chinese herbalist who immediately directed me to Qigong. And about 8 months into the practice, I no longer had migraine headaches that had been a part of my life for 25 years. And anyone who has had the great pleasure of a migraine headache knows that it's like having an ice pick in your eye for 3 days with the eye watering. I've never had them come back in the last 3.5 years since they left. I no longer have limitations in my low back from arthritis. A frozen shoulder of 25 years dropped back into place. And probably the most important thing is that there's an incredible amount of energy that at the end of the day, I still have and are able to work off of rather than getting chocolate or sugar or candy or something. And it's a really smooth kind of energy that continues to maintain its vitality all through the day into the early evening.
Sometimes I was so tired I'd be like walking with someone. I was embarrassed to say I need to stop, so I'd say, oh, look, those flowers there or something. I would find ways of trying to rest. So when I contracted Lyme disease, which was about 5 years ago, I knew that I needed to find something that could help me with my physical health. And about a month into my practice at home, I went to have a massage with a body worker who had worked on my body before I left. She was very familiar with it, and I had a very severe scoliosis. So one side of my back was much higher than the other, my shoulders. And so she massaged me on my back, told me to turn over. I turned over and she went, ah, like that. And I said, what's the matter? She said, your back is flat. So I came to Qigong for my Lyme disease, and the first thing that happened was my scoliosis straightened. And a couple of doctors said that was impossible, but it happened. What can I say? So I visited my Lyme doctor a few months into this practice, and her question to me after examining me and talking with me, she says, what are you doing for your healing? What is happening for you is far beyond anything that I've been offering you. You know, I'm moving on in my aging process, and yet I have more energy now than I did probably 20, 30 years ago.
My life was at about 15% energy. I had chronic fatigue syndrome, and it had destroyed my professional life, my personal life, and most aspects of living. That still even hurts. 3 years later, I'm alive. I've gained back my energy, it's doubled. I've gained back more open heart and connectedness to other people, where I had before been extremely isolated. I've gained back physical being, health, happiness, and a desire to live. I've gone from hopeless to hopeful, and there's no greater gift.
I was having trouble walking. The week I had an appointment for surgery for my knees. I have bone on bone in both my knees. I had never done this kind of Qigong before, and I kept thinking, I kept forgetting where I left my poles, and I kept walking, and I couldn't understand it. I mean, it gradually was getting better, and I was just walking around, and I'm not limping. I'm just walking, and I'm just so excited.
Motivated by dealing with stage 4 head and neck cancer, which at that time had metastasized to my lymph nodes and was also in my tongue and my throat. And I was very opened up by that experience and very moved, and began practicing when I came home and really experiencing a transformation in my body, in my awareness of my body, and the qi flowing through me, and feeling my happiness increasing. I had a PET CT scan in August, and it showed a 50% reduction in my tumors compared to May. And another tumor, unrelated, is a benign tumor on my acoustic nerve called a schwannoma, which gives me tinnitus in this ear. And I had an MRI in September, and my doctor was amazed to tell me that it has actually shrunk compared to 2015, and he said that only happens in about 8% of cases. Besides the healing, I'm really feeling now that this is about my real purpose in life, which is to deepen my connection with spirit, to be more connected with the oneness.
I am 76, and I'm enjoying my life more now than I have ever before. And so I've been looking and looking. I've looked at yoga. I've looked at some other Qigong. Nothing seemed to fit. And that introduced me to Wisdom Healing Qigong. I signed up for the Wisdom Healing Qigong online course. It was quite something. I've had some challenges physically, my upper back with fused vertebrae there, and I believe they might be shaken out there. So I'm really happy with that. So I have much more mobility than I've had really for the last 20 years. And I think that I've had a lot of grief and loss, especially early on in life. And I know that unresolved grief causes a lot of problems throughout life. And I do know that this can be healed. The heart's opening and healing of blockages in the body is just phenomenal.
I have to love myself if I'm going to be able to love others in the way that I want to, in the way to be of service, in the way that I want to be of service. And so that Wisdom Healing Qigong again has allowed me to feel a greater confidence as a consciously aging person, that the value that I feel in life, which is only based to do with love and caring and the healing of others, and to allow people creatively to thrive and to be creative myself, but to allow all human beings to experience the joy of creation.
I started, though, with Mingtong just last May after a series of very serious illnesses. I've been sick for a little over 7 years, starting with a black mold infection that was very serious, Lyme disease, and then followed by cancer, and then major chemotherapy. And that left me in some very bad physical shape, and was starting to recover somewhat, and then had emergency gallbladder surgery last May. And that finished me off emotionally and physically, and I couldn't breathe, and I knew I was in trouble. I didn't think I was going to be able to come back. And so 3 weeks after the surgery, I found Mingtong online, and I'd done a little bit of Qigong before and just knew in my heart that this is what I need to do. And I arranged to have a wheelchair get me through the airport, and showed up. But about the third day, things started to really turn around, and I started to feel alive again in a way that I hadn't felt in a very long time. I love this practice quite a bit because the results have been so tangible, and it gave me a confidence, and it's giving me a confidence in my ability to show up in life that I didn't have even 6 months ago. I think that one of the biggest things is I've come to appreciate my body in a very different way. That I think I looked at exercise and practice as a cost. And kind of a grumpy little kid kind of thing of I shouldn't have to do this, and why does it take so much more time to get my body active? And with the Qigong practice, it's incorporated both my spiritual practice and my physical practice together, and also allowed me to really deal with my emotional issues that came through being sick so long. There are some things worse than dying, I've learned, and that's definitely living a life that's alone and in pain. And
when I found out about this practice and the potential to transform ourselves from inside out, to really be at peace within ourselves, to be happy and healthy, and that actually that's our birthright. This is who we naturally are. But we have to awaken that peacefulness. We have to decondition our body. And we have all this unconditioned energy to help us do that.